Well, we are excited. It's one, and we know you guys are so busy and have lots to do. So we're gonna kick it off and get started. So I'm super excited to introduce Kirby Moss today. He is our presenter. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist. He's trained in post-induction therapy, ART, and somatic experiencing. He's facilitated as a chemical dependency counselor at Veterans Village of San Diego, the Betty Ford Center, the Meadows of Wickenburg, and many more actually listed. He has facilitated 4,000 hours at the Veterans Village of San Diego and the Betty Ford Center and some others. And he has achieved a Master of Counseling in Marriage, Family, and Child Counseling from the University of Phoenix. He's also earned the Ken Bachelor Executive MBA at Grand Canyon University. So very excited to learn more about this topic today. I think there's a lot around this, especially Idaho with our neighboring states and things, but our webinar today, addiction and recreational drug use, substance abuse trends, and kind of what to watch for and see in your staff and coworkers. And just a few little ground rules so you guys know how to participate. We love and encourage your participation. This is really for you. We're doing this, as one of your benefits. So any questions or input you have, we would love to hear. The chat is available. You can also submit through the Q&A if you would like it to just be anonymous. You can do that too. And I will absolutely be watching those for you, Kirby, and let you know when they come in. And just a reminder, so we do these Wellness Wednesday webinars once a month, usually the third Wednesday of the month. And you can register for them at any time throughout the year. Just go to our website, and I'll put that in the chat as well, the link, but it's iii-a.org. And then you can go to our calendar and you can just register for any of them or all of them. And then if you miss them, you'll get the recording and all of any kind of handouts and resources we would send post webinar. You'll get those too. So bring your friends next time. I like to say that. So we really want you guys to get to utilize these. We bring in really great presenters that are experts in different topics, and it's part of your wellness benefits. We usually rotate these. So we'll do a physical focus on one month and then a mental health focus on the next. So, and then next month is September 25th, and that one will be fueling the mind. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kirby.
All right, Candace, thank you so much. I think Eugene put something in the question portion where it's blocked or locked or something. So thank you, Eugene.
Okay, we'll fix that. The chat's disabled. We'll fix that.
I'm happy to be here with everybody. We have 5 or 6 people in here with us. I wish I could see your faces and hear your voices. Disclaimer, apology in advance. It's probably going to sound like and feel like I'm talking at you and to you. I want to try to minimize that as much as I can. Always open to questions and comments as we go. Candace, you got it live there now. Good. And I just want to add real quick, because this is just kind of what I do as a clinician and as a therapist and a counselor. Probably the best thing I ever did in my life was I honored my mother by proudly serving as her registered caregiver 24/7, 365 for 11 and a half years. So the things I've done with my education, my training, in my career, everything combined, just can't even come close to the journey of serving as my mother's caregiver. So I'm just a staunch advocate of adult children taking care of our parents, and I'm thankful and grateful I had that as part of my life. And stress is a huge part of that, caregiver stress. And stress is a huge part of addiction and recreational drug use and substance abuse trends. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to put a lot of information on the screen. I want to get us through these slides as fast as we can. We have that QR code right there. If you want to grab that off your phone with your camera, you'll get a copy of today's presentation as a reference and a resource for you to go back and look at some of these numbers. Going to throw a lot of different drugs, a lot of different numbers at you. Me personally, I think the research behind all this is really important for us to know. Sometimes we get bored with numbers, but there's some astounding numbers that we're going to see here. Our objectives: learn about the current state of addiction, discuss the most common trends, identify the impact of the misuse, and identify signs of when the use can become an issue. And that's more of the clinical side of things we'll get to at the end. So hopefully we'll get to that sooner than later. Having worked at Veterans Village of San Diego, Betty Ford Center, the Meadows, which was my favorite treatment center I had worked at. For me, it's like the happiest place on earth, kind of like Disneyland when it comes to treatment centers. Learned a lot there, and I hope to pass on some of this information to you today after we get through all this information. We talk about alcohol, we talk about drugs, club drugs, prescription drugs. As we move forward on the PowerPoint, we also are going to be talking about nicotine, cannabis, all kinds of different things here. Um, you know, it's easy to do the wrong thing. It's difficult to do the right thing. It's easy for us to, pour the drink. It's difficult for us to do some self-care exercises that connect us to our nervous system, our body, get us out of our brain. And hopefully we'll talk about that at the end as we go on. Candace, are you still with me right now? Yeah, there we go.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Candace. So these are just some of the numbers, and this is just the beginning of a lot of numbers we're going to talk about. 25% of Americans, 1 in 4, admitted they use illicit drugs. Nearly 50 million nationwide struggle with some type of substance use disorder. Alcohol is the gateway drug most commonly used. It's been around forever. And just a side note, tobacco and marijuana. More recovering alcoholics die from nicotine than any other drug. So that is research based. That's a fact. If we go to a 12-step meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, there'll be a lot of people there who say, I haven't had a drink in a long time, but they're right there smoking. And that works the same receptors of the brain. So they're basically in relapse mode. And the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says denial is cunning, baffling, and powerful. So that's just a great example of cross addiction and addiction interaction, how those things play a prevalent way in our life with bouncing around, jumping around, trying different things to numb ourselves out. We can continue to go forward on the PowerPoint. I want to click through these hopefully every 30 seconds on a PowerPoint so we could just get through this, because again, I don't want to everybody to feel like I'm talking at you and to you all the time. And if you have a question as we go, please go ahead and ask. Let's learn about the current state of addiction. We'll dive right into this. The state of addiction today, more Americans lost to drugs in 1 year than in Vietnam. So Vietnam, 60,000 casualties, 2022, 105,000. Heroin, most common fatal opioid overdose was heroin in 2022. Fentanyl is a part of that. Opioids a part of that. And then as we go on with these numbers, psychostimulants with abuse potential, the meth, continue to increase compared to the previous year. So what we have is we have an epidemic of so many things going on. I'll talk about the family system stuff in a while. A lot of people will say marijuana is not addictive. A lot of people will say marijuana is addictive. For me, what's the habit? Why are we doing it? It leads to amotivational behavior. It leads to slowing down the metabolism. It leads to complacency, procrastination, stuckness, stress. And then all of a sudden we're in the vicious cycle of addiction. So whether it's physiologically addictive or not, it does play a significant role on our behavior. 55 million American adults currently use marijuana. That's almost, over 15% of the population. Chronic users may develop a mental dependency categorized as marijuana use disorder. So we could use different names. We can use different labels, different titles. What's the behavior? Why are we doing it? What are we trying to medicate? What are we trying to numb out or get rid of? That's what we'll talk about here at the end of the PowerPoint. as we continue to click through marijuana beliefs. 72% of Americans say that regular alcohol use is more of a health risk than the regular use of marijuana. Both of them are poison, killing our organs and changing the chemistry of our brain and our blood. 56% of Americans believe it is socially acceptable. Okay, well, where are we at in our life? How is this helping me be an independent, productive citizen in my life, in my relationships, my friendships, my marriage, my family as a co-parent? Do we want to be a follower and do what everybody else does, or are we going to step out of the box and be a leader and go against the grain? One of the lost arts of baseball is bunting, and I'm like, lay down the bunt, square and bunt, go against the grain, be different. As we click through these beliefs of cannabis and marijuana, we see the grid of all these different drugs, synthetic opioids or other than methadone, primarily fentanyl. We see that just skyrocket really since 2014. And there's all kinds of things here: psychostimulants, cocaine, opioids, benzos, heroin, antidepressants. Anxiety and depression expand and contract. They're very similar, but different. It's kind of like religion and spirituality, very similar, but different. They overlap. And when we talk about anxiety and depression, we're talking about a symptom, kind of like the lights on the dashboard of our vehicle. Anxiety and depression are a symptom usually of anger and sadness, and anger and sadness expand and contract. And those two are symptoms of guilt and shame. And usually, guilt and shame are the drivers. They ride shotgun with us all day long. Guilt and shame are the drivers of that anger and sadness, which expand and contract. If I'm angry, I'm probably really sad. And if I'm sad, I'm probably really angry. So it's really important to be aware of our body. Am I anxious or depressed? Am I angry or am I sad? Am I feeling some guilt or some shame? We don't like to feel our guilt and shame. That's where we start picking up the bottle or the drugs. And that's why we see some wackadoodle numbers here of a lot of people not managing the symptoms of anxiety and depression. As we continue to click through here, more numbers. Marijuana can lead to all of these things that I had talked about earlier. The big one, other than the complacency and the slower metabolism and the procrastination and the guilt and shame that comes with that vicious circle, increased risk of psychosis and schizophrenia. One study estimated that approximately 3 in 10 people who use marijuana have marijuana use disorder. So how are we going to define disorder? Let's change that word with dysfunction. Dysfunction is in every single one of us, one way or the other. It came from mom and dad or family system, handed down through our family of origin. And as my sister says, we put the fun in dysfunction. But substance use disorder is next level dysfunction. It's like the fight, flight, freeze response isn't working for us anymore. We're really disconnected from ourselves as human beings and our family system. So what's the next thing we're going to do to medicate ourselves, to numb out, feel something different rather than innately tap into what's inside of us to soothe, cope, deal, manage, parent ourselves? As we continue to click through here, Fire Rescue One magazine back in 2022, just a couple years ago. The bottom one really jumped out at me. 30 bush lights the night before a shift and coming to work smelling like a brewery and being borderline worthless is still a widely accepted practice, though. Just don't smoke pot. Anything next level dysfunction is just a way we're trying to cope and deal with something that A, we don't know how to deal with it, B, we don't know where it's coming from, or C, we just haven't taken that healthy risk to step out of the box and tap into our innate nuts and bolts and screws that we have. It's like working a dormant muscle. So to stay away from substance abuse and addiction. And we'll talk about the different stages of addiction coming up here. And then CBD. All these oils, these lotions, these sprays, unregulated by the FDA or anyone else, but millions of people are using them. And then CBD can be synthetically converted into delta 8 THC THC is a big part of CBD, which is psychoactive and not well understood. The bottom line is we're acting outside in rather than inside out. Treatment recovery is an inside out job. Outside in is an intensity issue of I haven't been role modeled or coached or taught or trained how to meet my own needs and self-care myself. I call it soothe, cope, deal, manage, parent self. And this CBD, THC stuff is next level intensity outside in. As we continue to click through here and talk about the different drugs, we're going to get into more stuff here also. Um, Marijuana use becoming mainstream. It's been mainstream for probably 15 years, at least 10. Uh, One Cannabis is franchising the marijuana business with homegrown mission of making the industry as welcoming to soccer moms as it is to old hippies and college-age tokers. Gummies, edibles, CBD. There's a lot of that out there. Just because everybody is doing it or millions of people are doing it doesn't make it right. Um, I lost my mother and father, both of them, side effects of nicotine addiction, COPD. Um, they were back in the 50s and 60s smoking nicotine. That was the social acceptable thing to do, very much like marijuana is today. One of my favorite sayings is when we are younger, say teens, 20s, 30s, when we are younger, we are strong, but we're stupid. It's like we do things to our body, our blood, our organs, but we do those things because we're strong enough inside to recover. We recover a lot faster. When we're older, we are wise, but we are weaker. So we take all that knowledge, all that wisdom that we learn from our teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all of a sudden we're a lot wiser, but man, our body took a beating and we're weaker and we're deteriorating. So something to think about there. I've lost a lot of people in the last 5 years, college friends, high school friends from alcohol. The side effects of the liver, esophageal bleeding, stroke, it's all there with alcohol. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't make it right. More than 140,000 people die from excessive alcohol use each year. Heavy drinking, defined as consuming 8 or more alcoholic beverages per week. For women, that's 15, double that. 2 and 3 adult drinkers report drinking above moderate levels at least once a month. Life's happening, forces are in play. We take on and take on and take on, whether it's work, family, marriage, children. You can keep going, Candace, that's fine. We take on a lot in our lives, and it's difficult to manage stress with containment and boundaries. And when our brain gets overloaded, things tend to drop down into our nervous system and our body. And we're going to try to find a way, the easiest way, because our brain and body seek comfort. We're going to try to find the easiest way to medicate ourselves and numb out and check out. FEMA research, granted funded back in 2016, 85% of firefighters drank alcohol in the past 30 days. So whether it's beer, whether it's hard liquor, whether it's wine, first responders, just not firefighters, a lot of substance abuse and even addiction in the first responder field as well as the military. On average, firefighters reported drinking alcohol 10 days per month or about half of their days off. That's excessive, and there are more innate healthy ways to work through that. As we continue to click through this, and we'll get into this in a little bit on the healthy things we can do. Impacts of alcohol, as I mentioned, I've lost easily half a dozen friends in the last 5 years from alcohol. We just take for granted our organs. Our organs work hard to keep us alive, keep us healthy. What are we putting in our blood? Alcohol is a poison. It's on the label. Alcohol is a depressant. It's on the label. Cancer, liver disease, weakening of the immune system, memory problems, start getting into mini strokes and strokes. Obviously, family problems, a lot of anger management, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of abuse and neglect in families with alcohol. injuries, violence, alcohol poisoning, risky behaviors, miscarriages. There's just a lot of side effects. I love the graphic on the right, the lungs, the muscles, the bones, the liver, stomach, kidneys, heart, brain. Alcohol goes everywhere. So does cannabis. So does nicotine. And if we really stop and slow down and think and feel about what am I doing to my vessel, my body, again, we tend to take a lot for granted, and it does catch up to us big time fast. And a lot of people, as we showed in the previous screen, the numbers speak for themselves. Um, so hydration, healthy nutrition, protein are huge. As we continue to click through opioids, we're going from alcohol, cannabis, nicotine, opioids. 75% of the nearly 105,000 drug overdose deaths in 2021 involved in opioid. Uh, it's easy to get, whether it's prescription drugs or street drugs, it tends to be more accessible. I literally drive around the city of San Bernardino, California, where our headquarters is, where I'm at today. I drive around just to learn about the city and see the culture of the city and feel, where things are. I see human trafficking and drug deals on the streets of San Bernardino all day long. This stuff is super accessible and it's killing people on the streets, and there's a lot of innocent deaths from it. A lot of people don't even know what they're selling. They're just passing it hand to hand to get the money. And the opioids have really picked up steam in the last 10 years. As we click through and keep going, and everybody feel free to pop in a question or a comment if you want, and I'll type them out or speak them out to everybody. Most common trends in substance use, section 2 of the 4 sections. Rise in opioid overdose deaths in America. You could see the 90s, 2010, 2013, how it just has taken off. Nearly 650,000 people died from opioids in 99 to 2021. The synthetics, the heroin, the RX drugs, it's just everywhere. Again, it's easy to do the wrong thing. It's difficult to do the right thing. We are in pain. All of us experience some type of pain, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, seasonally, annually. Is it mental pain, emotional, physical pain, spiritual pain, financial pain, relational pain? And we don't like feeling the pain. We want to get rid of it fast. So rather than throwing it all on the table and being honest and being real honest and not holding on to our secrets and lies of what we're feeling and what we're experiencing and what we're thinking, we tend to isolate and ostracize and check out. And this is a huge piece of the opioid addiction. We've got to learn how to slow down, stop, connect, parent self to connect with self and connect with others, particularly our family members. Family members can be super duper support if we initially work through the discomfort of the tension, friction, adversity, conflict we may be going through in our family. How does it happen in the fire service? High risk of injury, risky healthy behavior, exposure to stressors, behavioral health concerns, sleep issues, firefighters, police officers, state troopers, even dispatch. Continuous stress, cumulative stress, vicarious stress, burnout, compassion fatigue. It's just that we take on these compounding events. Our sensory is we see, we hear, we touch, we taste, we smell, and these things trigger our brain, our nervous system, and our first responders take on without the countermeasures or the decompressions of those compressions, and it's going to lead to substance use disorder and even addiction. Right now, first responder wellness, our FR Health Treatment Center in Newport Beach, California, we have 60 first responders in there right now getting treatment for addiction or mental illness from the side effects of their high risk of injury at work, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. As we continue to click through this, and we could just hit these super fast. OxyContin 1995, 1999 National Patient Safety goal, all these things right here. The stealth addiction is opioid use, is fentanyl. For me, they're all stealth because they're all doing a number on us in a different way. Some may be more socially acceptable, some may not be as socially acceptable. It's coming down to access, it's coming down to price. For me, a lie is a secret is a lie. And so for me, any substance use disorder, any type of addiction is a stealth addiction. But for the most part, Oxycontin and the opioids are the big one. As we continue to click through here, we're talk about symptom management. We could go back to that just real quick. This is really interesting. The pain assessment tool. So this can relate to so many different things in our life. The green, I call it the green, yellow, orange, red. Anxiety and depression. If I'm good to go, I'm green. If I'm good to go, I must be doing something right. If I'm good to go, I'm probably practicing some breathing, some meditating, some praying, some stretching, some walking, some reading, some journaling. Those are all really basic things for us to do, but they're super difficult for us to do because mom and dad didn't role model, coach, teach, train us how to practice the mindful, thoughtful exercises of breathing, praying, meditating, stretching, walking, reading, journaling. So if I'm not meeting my own needs, I want somebody else to do it. And if somebody else isn't doing it for me, then I'm going to want somebody else or something else to do it. And that's where we find ourselves with alcohol. I call it sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And we're in the red zone. If we're not meeting our own needs, doing some basic things, those decompressions, and we're taking on all the stress, all the little traumas, even some big traumas of everyday life, we're going to be in the red zone if we don't have the containment and boundaries to soothe, cope, deal, parent ourselves to be in the green. So all of us can feel in our nervous system when I'm going from green to yellow, I'm starting to get more anxious or more depressed. Orange, it's intensifying. Red, I'm super anxious, angry, rageful, or I'm super depressed and sad in that red zone. So I love the mercury of the green, yellow, orange, red, something to think about, maybe integrate into our lives and the people we work with, our family members. All right, we could click through. Thank you. Kratom, this is really interesting stuff. Kratom is not lawfully marketed in the U.S. as a drug product, a dietary supplement, or a food additive in conventional food, but people are getting their hands on it. 1.7 million Americans used kratom back in 2021. It's the tropical tree native to Southeast Asia, and it's out there and people are using it. As we click through, kratom side effects and safety concerns, very much like other drugs, what they do to us. Like I said, alcohol is a depressant. Cannabis tends to be a depressant. Cocaine would be a stimulant. And it goes back, just talking as we click through this too, Candace. It's again, it's when it's really difficult for us to step out of the box and try new things. And people are using a lot of cross addiction and addiction interaction to cope, deal, manage their nervous system, their sensations, feelings, and emotions. Benzos, prescribed for anxiety, insomnia, muscle spasms, seizures, spastic disorders, and agitation. The thing I like to talk about with benzos is people who do go into addiction treatment, usually many of them go through detox. And once they're detox, meaning what we're trying to do is just balance out the chemicals of the brain and the body physiologically so they don't die from a seizure. Because the physiological disease of addiction, I mean, technically, if somebody's an alcoholic or a drug addict, it's a biopsychosocial spiritual disease. So if I'm physically addicted, then I can't stop. Because if I do stop, I'm probably going to die from a seizure. So the detox of getting people in to slowly wean them off, balance out their blood and their chemicals in their brain, it's critical. But the thing that a lot of people do now is after their detox, okay, now they're going to feel their guilt and shame of, oh my gosh, what have I done to myself? what have I done to my family? What have I done to my friends, my career, whatever? I feel anxious and depressed. Can I get some benzos? Um, a lot of addiction treatment centers are over medicating people because people just are having a difficult time learning how to deal with their anxiety and depression. We'll get into that in a little bit here at the end. As we click through the statistics on benzos, the main one we want to see here, over 90% of all prescriptions and illicit involved that type of overdose deaths, also involved other prescriptions or illicitly manufactured opioids. So the intensity issues of the outside in are probably more prevalent and out of control. People are just having a really difficult time slowing down, stopping, connecting with self, connecting with nervous system, and working through the discomfort of what those emotions are trying to teach us. So benzos were involved in 70% of all overdose deaths. Um, Big numbers, a lot of different drugs out there. And the people who go from the simple stuff, the gateways of alcohol, nicotine, cannabis, are really getting into the opioids and the benzones and the kratom. Okay, we could keep clicking through here. Again, if everybody has a question, a comment, go ahead and share with me. I appreciate everybody being with us. Consequences of using benzos and negative life impacts. Um, the symptoms are very much, whether it's alcohol, nicotine, cannabis, or benzos or whatever, we're all going to end up, if we're addicted physiologically, um, emotionally, then we're all going to feel these symptoms, anxiety, sleep problems, reduced energy. All these drugs end up having the same side effects one way or the other over time. This is where we get into tolerance. It's like, I need more of this to get the same effect because my body is changing, my physiologically changing, my chemicals are changing where I need more of it to get the same effect. And it's across the board with everything. We can click through from benzos to meth. 53% met diagnostic criteria for methamphetamine use disorder. That was back in 2020. 3% reported injecting meth in the past year. Co-occurring substance use and mental illness are common. So talking about dual diagnosis, talking about personality disorders, which are rooted in not only from the womb but the early birth trauma, birth to three to six. Personality disorder is a huge piece of addiction, and pulling those two apart to work strictly on the personality disorder and set the substance use aside or the addiction aside, that is the work of our psychiatrists who are addictionologists, American Society of Addiction Medicine, working with those personality disorders, working with the addictions of meth and benzos and nicotine in particular, are a huge piece of this. A lot of personality disorders are being treated with dialectical behavioral therapy now, EMDR, ART, even somatic experiencing. As we continue to click through amphetamines, Adderall, Ritalin, the list goes on. The amphetamines, ADHD is really gaining ground in research and diagnosis. For me, ADHD starts very young in our family systems. It comes from, we're talking about working some dormant muscles that mom and dad may not be allowing us to work. And we get into caretaking and caregiving and the differences between those two. Caretaking is when I do something for somebody that they can do for themselves. Caregiving is when I do something for somebody that they cannot do for themselves. The way ADHD very much gets set up is if we're doing something for somebody that they can do for themselves, we're not creating neural pathways in their brain. We're not allowing them to work some dormant muscles. We're not allowing them to figure it out for themselves. And if we're stuck and complacent, not working through the discomfort of learning how to do certain things, then where are we at? We're probably on our phone, on our computer, on our TV, doing anything and everything, but doing the responsible and accountable thing of working our dormant muscles to create new neural pathways in our brain to be responsible and accountable to show up in a way to get chores and tasks and short-term goals done. That's one definition of treating where ADHD comes from. And there's a lot of amphetamines out there that people are using. You can't overdose, they are addictive. Seizures are a part of it, and there's a huge circulation problem. A lot of these drugs are really accessible, really easy to get, and some of them are really affordable for people to get. So as we click through this, from amphetamines, we'll start getting into psychedelics. Uh, a lot of good research out there on MDMA and other psychedelics. Psychedelics are now being used to treat trauma, being used to treat certain types of substance use disorders and trauma. So a lot of military being treated with psychedelics, some first responders. There's treatment centers popping up everywhere. It's an interesting subject, and there's a lot of great resources out there to study the psychedelics. But the difference is people who are in treatment getting treated by an addictionologist or a medical doctor, it's quite different than practicing psychedelics on our own. And going out into different workshops and intensives where people are actually shooting frog juice with each other. So a lot of people die from that because they're not under the eye of an FDA or a medical doctor with the psychedelics. If we keep going through this, there's more information on psychedelics here. Unknown outcomes based on compounds and specifics. Microdosing medical research and experimentation has increased. That's what I had mentioned. Many are illegal at this time. So I have a whole folder of psychedelic resources that I continually research and try to learn about. It's basically just altering the state of the consciousness. It's a different way of trying to, quote unquote, be more natural than alcohol or cannabis or nicotine. And there are a lot of unfortunate calls for people who are overdosing on psychedelics. So this is like really what happens is people are getting word that psychedelics are okay, even though they're really not approved. And people are finding these undercut, very much like cannabis, how cannabis is taken off. I think psychedelics are really catching up to cannabis on people are getting information that this stuff is working, but they're just not going to places that are legal to do it. Okay, as we click through here on the popularity, that's what I was mentioning a second ago. Defined as an extremely low sub hallucinogenic dose of a substance, usually 1/10 to 1/20th of a typical recreational dose, microdosing. And this stuff is, see something, say something. A lot of people, their behavior, um, we know what it looks like to see a drunk or somebody high on marijuana. These people can be really out there with hallucinations and other things going on with them. So the psychedelic community, it's really flooding every market in our country now, particularly with all the different things. I mean, they're even showing up in drugs sold on the street now, very much like fentanyl is. The psychedelics are really involved with everything now. As we click through this, we're going into section on 3 on the impact and misuse of these substance abuses. So visible signs of alcoholism, substance abuse. It's with every drug. I don't think alcohol is the only one where we're going to experience these side effects. Productivity lowers, obviously. I mean, I don't think anybody is productive on a hangover or feeling depressed or feeling dehydrated. Increased use of sick days, memory blackouts, growing preoccupation, growing tolerance, dilated pupils, abscesses. The list goes on from alcohol. Again, it's poison, it's a depressant, it's killing our liver, our kidneys, and I had a friend recently. He was coughing up blood, and he hadn't drank in 3 months, and he had ulcers from alcohol in his esophagus. Hadn't drank in 3 months. His brother wanted to take him to the hospital. He said, "No, I'm going to go lay down and take a nap." They all fell asleep, and this person passed away, bled out, all rooted in alcohol. Just the side effects of the day to day, the week to week, the month to month, over years. Even if we stop, sometimes the damage is done. So really important to get physicals, check our blood, and get even CAT scans if needed, if there's other certain symptoms. Keep clicking through this. You know the ABCDs of addiction: inability to consistently abstain. A lot of people, I talk to a lot of couples about this. When do we drink? How much do we drink? How do we drink? I mean, people are just so used of making it, it's like a daily pet. It's like having a dog or a cat. Some of these people who are pouring a glass of wine or having a cold beer. I'm not against a glass of wine or a cold beer, but the thing is, couples aren't talking about um, what day of the week are we going to drink? Why are we going to drink? When are we going to drink? How much are we going to drink? They're just going with the flow. Instead of pulling their own strings, they're letting alcohol pull their own strings. And then we lose control, we lose containment, we get out of control. And then just the side effects within the marriage, the relationship, the family, the children, even work. People can't abstain because they're not even talking about when are we doing it? Wait a second, I don't need to drink here. I don't want to drink there. I have a lot of couples when they go out, it's like, okay, let's have a conversation about it. Are we having one or two or hitting the road? Going against the grain, stepping up for self, not being the follower. Do what we have to do to be responsible and accountable, to get in and get out, not get in, get stuck, get overwhelmed, and worry about what everybody else is thinking. Are you having another drink? So the ABCDEs: abstain, behavioral, craving, diminished, emotional. Emotional usually comes from I'm not doing my countermeasures. I'm not doing my decompressions. I'm not doing my self care. I'm not meeting my own needs. I'm not breathing, praying, meditating, stretching, walking, reading, journaling. I'm not eating healthy. I'm not exercising. Consistently balancing out our life is difficult. And the more we allow it to be difficult, the more we don't show up for ourselves, the more the ABCDEs are going to show up in our life. And psychological self-medication. Okay, so let's recognize the signs of when use can become an issue. A lot of people, Dr. Kevin Gilmartin's amazing. He wrote a great book for first responders about trauma and how to get through life as a first responder emotionally, behaviorally, and the side effects of substance abuse and addiction. On duty, the first responder presents as alive, alert, energetic, involved, and humorous. Off duty, the first responder presents as tired, detached, isolated, and apathetic, or needing excessive stimulation. The failure to cope in a healthy way leads to finding unhealthy coping mechanisms, of which substance use and substance abuse is most common. I'm going to throw out something I do with every single one of my couples. Hopefully this helps you. We're actually working on a course here at the counseling team and FR Health. We're working on a course on when the first responder leaves work to the time they get home. At work, first responder is Superman or Superwoman. On the way home, Superman, Superwoman, they need to go into the phone booth and they need to come out as a Superman or a Superwoman. Not Superman or Superwoman, but it's like we got to leave that hat at work and we got to put on that home hat. It's kind of like Mr. Rogers when he goes home, walks in his house and he takes off his sweater and changes his shoes. We're actually going to create a course on this. We have to get home and not allow our profession to victimize us. Yes, there is continuous stress, vicarious stress, all kinds of burnout and compassion fatigue. The three exercises I give my couples: number one, get on the couch and co-regulate. That's a decompression. That's a countermeasure. I want my men and my women, my partners, my couples on the couch, holding hands right next to each other, laid back, breathe through the nose, out the candle, breathe through the nose. It's smell the rose, blow out the candle, just breathing and being. Nobody's trying to fix each other. Nobody's trying to tell each other what to do or don't do. We're just going to let each other be and let each other have their experience and sharing. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'd like. This is what I prefer. It's just a moment of not being a victim of life outside of my home. It helps us co-regulate. If we're like one's anxious and one's depressed, we're going to co-regulate. Both are anxious, we're going to bring each other down. Both depressed, we're going to bring each other up. The co-regulating is huge. And then leveling with each other, which is healthy nonviolent communication, and then planning our marriage, planning our life, planning our relationship, planning our co-parenting, planning the days, the weeks, the months, the seasons, the year, pulling our own strengths. 3 great exercises. As we click through this here, culture and stigma of first responders. Yeah, they're supermen and superwomen, man. They're saving lives every day. They see a lot of horrible things every day. 55% say their supervisor will treat them differently if they bring up mental health issues. It's the stigma. 45% talking about mental health at work will make them appear weak to peers. 34% say bringing up mental health concerns at work will prevent being considered for, you know what? It requires somebody brave and courageous to be vulnerable. It's not I'm vulnerable, I'm weak. It's not I'm vulnerable, I'm a coward. It's not I'm vulnerable, I'm a bad person because I don't know how to meet my own needs or take care of myself with countermeasures or decompressions. It's I'm brave and courageous to be vulnerable to say, I need some new tools in my toolbox to help me take better care of myself. I recently facilitated a first responder who was a firefighter, became a paramedic for the fire department on the ambulance, and he was rigorously honest with his chief and said, becoming a paramedic on the ambulance is too much for me. What I see, what I hear, what I smell, what I experience in this job as a paramedic, it's too much for me. My brain, my nervous system can't do it. I want to go back to be a firefighter. He was brave, he was courageous, he was vulnerable. He's happy again because he asserted himself. He was proactive and solution focused to do the right thing for not only himself, but for his fire department and for his community. So, yeah, we need to prevent or present a safe place of people being human beings with a brain and a nervous system. The uniform, the title means nothing. What's going on in our human experience, our reality? Progression of the effects when we're not taking care of ourselves, family, legal, social, financial, career. As we click through the side effects of substance abuse and addiction, how to recognize when there's an issue, preoccupation, tolerance, loss of control, defense mechanisms. Jelinek's model of alcoholism is there's a prodromal. I'm starting to drink here and there a little bit. And then there's, a few other phases of it's getting serious, the crucial phase. And then there's the chronic phase, and then there's the treatment phase and the recovery phase. So I think we all see and hear when people are acting different, sounding different. They're either expanded, more personality, more themselves, or they're maybe shut down, not as talkative, not as communicative, not as much personality. It's really important, critical that we meet people where they're at. More asking, less telling. Ask people what is going on in their life, what is going on in their experience. How are you doing? What are we going to get? I'm okay. It's not enough. There's a secret and a lie there. Let's get more into asking, tell me more about that. What's going on in our life? This is a great acronym, one of my favorites. I was thrilled. By the way, I did not create this PowerPoint. I love the PowerPoint because there's good information in it. But I love this acronym. I'm happy this is in here. A hungry, angry, lonely, tired. HALT is the acronym. I got to slow down. I got to stop. I got to check myself out. If I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired, I'm probably in relapse mode. I probably have to do some countermeasures. I probably have to take a time out, get on the couch and co-regulate with my partner, my spouse. It could be even my children. It could be great to role model and coach and teach and train our children how to breathe, pray, meditate, stretch, walk, journal, read. Let's activate our nervous system, discharge our nervous system. If we stay in halt, overwhelmed, stuck, complacent, stressed, we're closer to slipping on that banana peel right into our bottom line behavior of, I don't want to drink or drug. Halt is a great one to be mindful and thoughtful of. And then this assessment here, 4 questions about a person's drinking or drug use. Have you ever felt you ought to cut down? That's like a really interesting question that people, they'll actually sit still for a second and think about it. And they probably do need to cut down. Have people annoyed you by criticizing your drinking or drug use? Again, that's more telling. That's more abusing, rejecting, and guilting that person for their use. But that person's probably angry because they're missing the connection of their partner from the side effects of the behavior of quote unquote sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Have you felt bad or guilty about your drinking or drug use? Yeah, if I'm not connecting to myself, I'm not connecting to my spouse or my children or my friends or my family. And there's probably going to be some guilt and shame there. Have you ever had a drink or used drugs first thing in the morning to steady your nerves or to get rid of a hangover? So that's the eye opener, and that's a big sign. There's a lot of people who drink a lot who don't drink in the morning. There's a lot of people who have a drink at lunch. Just be aware of these things. It's okay to have a glass of wine. It's okay to have a beer. I think these things, wine and beer, were actually manufactured, created to taste them and have one. But how do restaurants make their money? Restaurants make their money on the alcohol, the liquor. They don't make their money on the food. You want another drink? Would you like another drink? Would you like another drink? And the tabs through the roof. And now we're just pounding our blood with poison and our brain with a depressant. And it just spirals from there. So that's why it's so prevalent all around the country. So if we click through this, we're starting to wrap this up here. We have the confidential. This is huge. Confidential, 100% confidential, except for elder abuse, child abuse, assistance with PTSD, substance abuse, mental health, and more. The Triple IA First Responder Helpline. The phone number's right here below. Candace, if you could just click that one more time. 208-244-7000. Easy number. Resources, referrals, treatment. Remember, I'm not vulnerable asking for help. I'm not a bad person asking for help. I'm not weak asking for help. I'm brave. I'm courageous to do the right thing, to meet my own needs, to take care of myself and parent myself. And I always mention that if we're going through something in our life, a trigger, a stressor, something that's knocked us down, sometimes we're one down, less than, helpless, hopeless. I like people to reframe it into, this isn't happening to me, this is happening for me. What is this trying to teach me? What's my growth opportunity to work my dormant muscle? If I continue to do what I've always done, I'll continue to get what I always got. I got to take a healthy risk to do what I've never done, work that dormant muscle, get uncomfortable, work through the resistance, to go where I've never gone, get that momentum going, get that self-esteem back up, to get what I've never got. That's the growth opportunity of learning how to connect with ourselves, master ourselves, fulfill our potential. Take the healthy risk to do what I've never done, to go where I've never gone, to get what I've never got. There's a lot of great support and a lot of great resources out there. So thank you for letting me present this. Full disclosure, it was difficult. There was a lot of slides, a lot of information. Please take the survey. I know I wasn't perfect, but we got through it. There was a lot of drugs, a lot of numbers, a lot of information. And if anybody has a question for me, a comment for me, I am here to answer your question or receive your feedback.
Thank you, Kirby. That was fantastic. It was great information.
Thank you, Candace.
I do know that someone was wondering about any apps for monitoring alcohol intake. Do you know of any apps on a phone?
That is a great question. There are great apps out there for so many different things. I say Google it all the time. So
Yeah,
let's Google it.
yeah,
The phone
absolutely.
app for alcohol intake.
Yeah, to monitor it.
Yeah, there's let's see. I don't see one here. Um, you
So
know,
while you're looking at it,
I would
oh
rather have that to get pulled over and have to blow into a machine to check my alcohol content level. But you know what? I would be surprised if there's not something out there for that.
yeah, okay. Also, oh, it looks like there is something in the chat. Oh, we had a thank you for your efforts today. It was useful information to add to the toolbox for
Thank
employee
you.
education.
Thank you. Drink control, alcohol tracker, e-protect. I just found it. Drink control, alcohol tracker. It's in the app store, the iPhone app store.
Okay, I can include that in our email that goes out too as a resource. So Drink Aware app is a good one, Megan says. Drink Aware.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
okay.
Do I
Also, oh,
do
go
I
ahead.
oh, you go ahead. Is there another question?
Nope, I just had something to add when you're done.
Um, do I have the capability to share the screen?
Yes. Yep, let me stop
Can I
sharing. Of
can I share some resources real quick?
course.
We have some people
Um,
here.
yeah, so while you're getting that, Kirby, I just want to remind all of our members that there is a helpline for all of our members, not just first responders. So that number that was shared in the slide in the presentation is for first responders only, but you can call our benefits line if you're a non-first responder and you'll still get assistance. It's just a different phone number. So I will definitely include that in the email as well.
Okay, so I'm just going to show some resources real quick before everybody jumps out of here. I hope this helps you guys. So this is a Jellinek curve, the pre-alcoholism, prodromal, crucial, chronic, and recovery that I had mentioned. I mentioned a few times, slow down, stop, connect with self. We got to learn how to elevate her out of our brain. Our brain is stinking thinking. Our behavior sucks. We got to get into our nervous system. We got to soothe ourselves, parent ourselves, connect with ourselves. John Kabat-Zinn, his stuff's great. Mindfulness-based stress reduction. This is mbsrtraining.com. Great resource, 8-week course. It is expensive. Let's find some really affordable stuff. DailyOhm.com. Great resource. Madison Taylor, Santa Barbara, California. Dan Millman was a gymnast at Berkeley. He wrote the book, Peaceful Warrior. He did the documentary, Peaceful Warrior, the Peaceful Warrior 4-minute meditation. 16 lessons. You could buy it, purchase it for $19. They also do the 4-minute Peaceful Warrior workout. They also do the Master the Path of the Peaceful Warrior. And then finally, Wim Hof. Wim Hof is kind of like the cold shower, the deep breath work. So you got Wim Hof, you got the Peaceful Warrior meditation, MBSR training. I hope that helps you.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining our webinar today. And again, you can register. I'll put it in the email that comes out, but you can register for the next one, which is September 25th, Fueling Your Mind. We hope you guys found this useful and can take away some things and share with any of your coworkers or family or friends. Really helpful information. Thank you, Kirby.
Thank you, Candace, for having me. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. I appreciate you sticking with me through all that information. I hope you got something out of it. Enjoy the
Thank
rest of your week and your weekend.